Hello and welcome into the Bruins fan review for Game 2 of the first round against the Carolina Hurricanes. Carolina ties the series 1-1, and I'd say deservingly so. They were the better team in Game 2. I kind of expected a good Carolina performance tonight. Their star players are younger. I think they're younger overall too. Younger teams tend to do better on these back-to-backs. Also, a good team like Carolina, hard to beat 2 nights in a row. Really hard to beat a team 2 nights in a row. And David Pastrnak would miss this game. You can see in the top right, injured. They don't know why. They think he might have got injured on the celly in the overtime of Game 1. He does a little hop and then holds his gut. Not really sure what that is. They can't really say what it is. Bruce said it's day-to-day in the post-game presser and that he's questionable for tomorrow's game at noon. And I'd say doubtful is probably more the way I'd go, just by hearing how Bruce talks about it. He's not really sure how he'll respond in the morning with the noon start time, so we'll see about that. Changes for the Bruins: Anders Bjork moved to the first line right wing, taking Pasta's spot. Kuhlman inserted into the lineup because of the Pastrnak injury. He would take the third line spot. Reimer in net for Carolina. They would switch goaltenders in this game. The Bruins would not. They would keep Raskin for the back-to-back. I'd say Reimer outplayed Rask tonight. Vatanen in, Edmondson out because of injury. Justin Williams in, Niederreiter out. Trevor Van Riemsdyk in, Gardner out. So let's start talking about the game. First thing of note, bad penalty by Lozon, unsportsmanlike conduct went after Fleury for a hit on Kuhlman. Thought it was a clean hit. Thought it was stupid by Lozon to go at him. Goes at him, lack of discipline, leads to a very good power play by the Hurricanes. A lot of possession in the Bruins zone. Rask makes a few good saves, specifically on a Dougie one-timer. But the Bruins got the kill done, and that's all you can ask for there. Brady Shea would trip Andre Kasha. Yes, it's a trip. Kind of a weak trip to call in the playoffs, in my opinion, because it doesn't affect the play at all. Kasha gets his pass off and then just kind of falls after getting a stick in the skates. Trip, yeah. Weak call, yeah. I think you can agree with both of those. Krejci would score on this power play. He would break McGinn's stick. I need to change slides here. And as you can see in the top right picture, McGinn gets the stick from Stahl, so it's basically a 5-on-3.5. Krejci uses the bodies in front of the net as a screen perfectly, weaves in and out, trying to find the space to shoot it. Eventually does, and look at that bottom left. Look at all that traffic. How does James Reimer see it? He doesn't, and it finds the back of the net for the Bruins to take a 1-0 lead. I will talk about a little controversial thing here that people on the social media were talking about a lot. It's McAvoy ripping off Stahl's helmet, which should have been a penalty, wasn't called. I see a lot of complaints about the refs in the comments on YouTube, where I get the pictures from for these videos, on Twitter from Canes fans, and I think it kind of cheapens the experience, or not. I shouldn't say that. It kind of isn't really looking at the whole game, where you just talk about the officials, because I don't think the officials have impacted the result of either of these games. I feel like the better team has won both games. The Bruins didn't score a power play goal last game and beat the Canes, but we're going to talk about calls, and I really feel like there's been some stuff done by the Carolina Hurricanes that has gone unnoticed that has been called too, like being hits from behind like Svechnikov did tonight. I wouldn't have called that, but you can say it's questionable. Slavin, a trip on Kasha on a net drive tonight, or last night I should say, not called, could have been called. You have Brady Shea tackling a Bruins player from behind in the final 5 minutes when the Bruins are trying to push for that equalizer. Refs aren't going to call that. It's playoff hockey. A lot of stuff doesn't get called, and I think it's kind of cheap in games that aren't really impacted a ton by the refs, like the results, I should say, to then go and complain about the refs after. It's one thing if it's like last year in the finals where you had that trip from behind on, I want to say, Achari, that directly led to a St. Louis goal that won them the game. It's a little cheap to talk about the refs and not just look at the game as a whole, in my opinion. That being said, if it does become an issue with the result, I will talk about it. But so far, I don't think it has. But that McAvoy ripping off the Stahl's helmet should be called. I'm not going to defend McAvoy there. He did it again and later in the game. He ripped off another helmet too. So I don't know if the refs just aren't noticing why the helmets are coming off. But I bet when they go back and look, they're going to be watching McAvoy for that. So let's hope McAvoy's careful from a Boston perspective about doing that in the future. I'd say a very even period. Bruins benefited from their power play. Canes did not, so that's the difference there. Second period, 30 seconds in, but York forces a turnover on Brady Shea, and there's an attempted breakout by Shea. Great turnover forced by Bjork. Krejci one-on-one with Reimer. Could have hit the net here, but just goes over the bar and hits high glass. Svechnikov rough-rided McAvoy into the boards later. Chara takes exception and face washes Svechnikov. Leads to a skirmish. McAvoy rips off Svechnikov's helmet. This is the moment I was talking about where he rips off another one. Matching minors, Svechnikov in charge of the box. Kind of knew that was going to happen with how that play went. And then from 4-on-4 on, for a long period in this game, the Carolina Hurricanes shoved the play down the Bruins' throat, just absolutely dominating the game. The Wagner would go high on Brady Shea, gets an elbowing call. Kind of similar to the first call. I'd say that with a weak call, like, yeah, it's a penalty, but not sure it should be called. But yeah, it's an arm in the face region, kind of like the trip by Shea was a trip, yeah, but like I'm not sure either of them need to be called, but both are called, and Carolina benefits from this call as well. And like the Bruins did earlier, and they tied up with a Teuvo goal. A lot like the Krejci goal, where it's good work. Teuvo uses Chara, the big man, as a screen, and finds Twine. Very similar in how these goals occurred. Penalty calls that you see a ton in the regular season, but not always in the playoffs. A good player using screens and scoring on a goalie on a power play. So 1-1, even game to this point. Carolina would then really turn on the afterburners and take off on the Bruins here, and they would score a minute and 28 seconds later. And this one would be Tuukka stops a dumping. You can see in the top right, he just throws up the boards here. Really careless. No, there's one person on the board that's too high and too hard to corral, though. Really bad distribution of the puck. TVR gets it at the point, passes it to Nachas. I'm going to try to pronounce that right now because he's doing stuff on the ice that needs to be acknowledged, so I gotta pronounce that name right now. Nachas with a beautiful feed to Svechnikov. Svechnikov, you can see why he goes so high in the draft, with a beautiful snipe, top shelf on Tuukka Rask. Canes take the lead, and I'd say deservingly so at this point in the game. Teravainen would take an interference call for tripping a backwards skating Krug. You make an argument Teravainen's holding his ice, but I kind of think he knows what he's doing there by seeing Krug and standing still. Kind of like a tabletop in a way, but, kind of just like a slew foot tabletop. I don't think it's dirty or anything. I just think, like, there's a pretty good chance Teravainen knows what he's doing there. I saw some people complaining about that, but I think he knows what he's doing there. And the Bruins would benefit from the power play. Brad Marchand would score with 3.8 seconds left. Good possession in the Carolina Hurricane zone. Shot from the right circle, as you can see, if you're facing the net on the top right picture, low. Marchand gets the rebound by saying backdoor. Really good net front presence there by Marchand. And the Bruins power play keeps them in the game. Makes it 2-2, despite Carolina outplaying the Bruins for the majority of the last 10 minutes of that period. So we go to the third. 3 minutes into the third, Carolina dump and chase. Carlo throws a grenade up the boards, which leads to a smothering attack by Carolina's first line. Aho would hit a post on this. The shot from the point leads to a scramble in front of the net for the loose puck. Puck ends up in the net. Wes McCauley waves it off, immediately saying Teuvo interfered with their ass. Rob Brindamore would challenge it. It stands. I agree with the challenge. No, I don't agree with the challenge. I agree with the call on the ice that Teuvo does interfere. Rask doesn't have time to get back into position. You can make an argument like Teuvo's not touching him when the puck is put in by Rask kicking it in, but Rask can't play the play in an honest fashion because of the way Teuvo has taken him out of position. So I'd say that's the right call. Bruins get another power play, and it was not the best power play in the world. Take momentum for a brief moment on the power play, but Carolina kills it, and then Carolina would take the lead in the third period. Krejci with a terrible in-zone turnover. Krejci's been very good this series, but not his finest moment. He tries to do an on-boards reverse, and it goes to Trocheck, who you might know doesn't play for the Bruins, so that's a pretty bad pass. Everyone's out of position from this. Nachas takes it around the net, as you can see in the bottom left, and look at those shirts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Bruins who can all basically say they aren't following COVID distancing rules of 6 feet. They all are within 6 feet of at least one Bruins player, and that's not good. And you can see all the open ice where Dougie Hamilton was coming into the zone and rips an absolute bullet top shelf on Tuukka Rask, and that's what Dougie's known for, scoring goals as a defenseman. One of the best in the business at it. Not much Rask can really do that. That shot's coming in with a lot of sauce on it. And, Canes take the lead 3-2. McAvoy would get called for a hooking call in the offensive zone out of frustration, I'd say, trying to make something happen because Carolina had been dominating play for a while. We killed the penalty off. A lot of it in Carolina's zone. We flipped momentum, but a little too late, and we would not get the equalizer, and the Bruins would lose 3-2. And Carolina would tie the series up 1-1. Now, this was a pretty good game. You got a little controversy with the refereeing a little bit. I will say a little bit. You got the goal challenge, which I think the refs got right. You had goals both ways. You had chippiness. Both teams do not like each other. This is a good playoff series so far, and it's probably going to go 7 games, I'd say. Wouldn't shock me if the Bruins respond in Game 3, Carolina responds in Game 4, Bruins respond in Game 5, Carolina wins the other back-to-back in Game 6, and then it goes to Game 7, and anything can happen in Game 7. I honestly, that's how I feel like the series is going to go, because, this is kind of like the first time Carolina's beat us in a playoff game, and it's kind of gained the respect from a fan's perspective. I was joking last game. I didn't actually think we were going to sweep them. I was saying that as kind of a joke. But Carolina's for real, and they finally beat us in a playoff game, and I think they're a better team than they were last year. Their possession, their forecheck, it's just a very good team, and the Bruins are also a very good team, which is why I think this goes down to the wire. Thoughts that I wrote down after watching the game: DeBrusk and Kasha get chances but can't score. I mean, you just gotta say it. I feel like in the offseason, or via the draft, which we haven't drafted the best in the last few years offensively. We need to get a scorer, because you can have all these guys who create chances. If you don't have a marksman, you're not going to score. It's kind of like you need like a Michael Ryder in a way, just like not the best player in the world, but he can shoot the puck. Kasha and DeBrusk can get chances. They both have speed, but they can't hit the net. But York has that issue too. I should have added him to this. The power play got going without Pasta. Pasta the other day gave a muffin up of a pass, and Brock McGinn took it house. And Pastrnak shouldn't work the point. I think Bruins fans have noticed that for a while now. They put him there because of his shot, but really he should be at the top of the circle. They should probably have Bergeron in front of the net, Marchand working the other circle, Pointman, Krejci, Pointman, Krug, and that should be the first power play unit. But for some reason, that hasn't been done when Pasta's on the ice. They've been putting him at the point, kind of rotating down to the circle as well when he feels need. They sometimes put 4 bodies down low and 1 up top, which is one of the reasons why the Bruins get scored on so much when they're on the power play compared to other teams in the league. But it's a risk-reward system, and the risk wasn't worth it the other night. I think Krejci's just a little more stable and possession-driven than a Pastrnak, who tries to shoot and try to make something out of nothing when he should be a little more hesitant. I have to acknowledge that, but you gotta acknowledge the Bruins are better with Pasta in the lineup. That's not even a question. Pasta at 5-on-5 can create opportunities that other players just can't create. Hopefully he comes back for Game 3. I don't think he will. I think we'll see him in Game 4 though. Back-to-back benefited Carolina. I'd say they were the more fit team. They're the younger team, and I'd say you could tell as the game went on they benefited from the back-to-back more. I'd say Carlo had a rough night. I just wrote that. I'm not going to give you any specific instances. Just something I kind of thought Char looks old. He's at the end of the line here. This is either his last season or maybe he's got one more in him, but I can't see any more than that. I don't think that comes to a shock as anyone who's watched him. He just really doesn't have the wheels to play in the league anymore, and he's really just a penalty kill specialist who's probably put out there in a few situations more than he should be at this point. And the second line was the best line tonight, 5-on-5, I thought. With chance creation. They do let up some chances, but I think they were the most dangerous line consistently. I thought the Pastrnak being out of the lineup hurt the first line, although Bergeron and Marchand had decent games in my opinion. That being said, thank you for watching the video. If you like my coverage, hit the subscribe button. If you want any suggestions or thoughts, leave them in the comments. Tell me how biased I am, because I know I get that from fan bases when my team loses. I'm biased. A little bit, yeah, sure. It's a fan review. Thank you for watching as always, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.